Today I want to talk about Ayman Odeh, a member of Knesset, a Palestinian parliamentarian within Israel. You might have seen news about him recently regarding his ongoing impeachment motion. So I want to give some context about that and why I think it's important. My name is Rida Aburas. I get this wrong every time. I have a PhD in political science, and my PhD was about the Palestinian community within Israel and its leadership, including Ayman Odeh. So, I want to delve in this video into some context and describe why this is important. So, today, 972 came out with this analysis speaking about the impeachment of Ayman Odeh. So I'll read some excerpts. The move to impeach the member of Knesset with the full backing of Jewish opposition lawmakers sends a message to Palestinian citizens that voting is futile. Basically, Ayman Odeh, the leader of the larger of the two current Palestinian factions within the Israeli parliament, a couple of months ago, I think in January, during the previous ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, tweeted, quote, "I am happy about the release of the Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners. From here, both peoples must be freed from the yoke of the occupation. We were all born free." That's his crime. As he said in a recent interview, you could print this on a sticker and put it in the and stick it on the UN headquarters, and it would fit. Like, this is super innocuous message, but for this, the Israeli right has latched onto this and began impeachment proceedings against him. But shamefully, these proceedings are expected to gather the necessary supermajority of 90 members of Knesset out of 120. And it's not for sure, but it seems likely that he will, in the end, be impeached. He will be the first member of Knesset to be impeached in such a way after an Israeli law passed in 2016 allowing the Knesset, the parliament, to impeach its own members if they reach a supermajority of 90 members. So during there's a Knesset committee hearing as part of the process to impeach him. This is going to be a multi-stage process. So during the first stage, Knesset, as this report says, Knesset members from across the political spectrum competed to see who could spew the vilest rhetoric against him. And one member of Knesset, there were several really horrific remarks, but one member of Knesset said, in a different country, you would be hanged. You would be placed in front of a firing squad. So this is one Jewish member of Knesset telling the leader of the larger Palestinian faction within the Knesset that they should be placed in front of a firing squad to their face. From the first sentence to the last, the hearing was a farce. It ended with a vote of 14-2 in favor of the proposal, supported by all Jewish members of the committee, including those from opposition parties. And this is crucial, right? This shows that the Israeli opposition, comprised of so-called center and center-left parties, might be committed to some measure of liberalism in other respects, but when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian confrontation, there's a complete agreement between the Israeli opposition and the Israeli government, the right-wing Israeli government, the most right-wing in Israeli history. They can all agree that the Arab shouldn't be in Knesset. I'll continue reading. The hearing was closed by, I believe this is meant to say chaired by a committee, closed by committee chair Ophir Katz of Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party, who called Odeh a, quote, routine supporter of terror and declared that he should, quote, rot in prison. The proposal will now pass to a vote of the whole Knesset, requiring a supermajority of 90 out of 120 to finalize his expulsion. So who is Ayman Odeh? I want to show a couple of videos to sort of illustrate what this, quote, supporter of, routine supporter of terror, what he says. I'll start with this older video. This is soon after, sorry, you might not be able to hear me. This is soon after October 7th. And he's expressing sympathy with victims of Hamas's October 7th attack, and urging Israeli lawmakers, but really speaking to broader Israeli society, to restrain their revenge. Quoting from a famous Hebrew poem by Hebrew poet Chaim Nachman Bialik. So here's a short excerpt.
נקמה כזאת, נקמת דם ילד קטן, עוד לא ברא השטן. כך פתחת ראש הממשלה את הכרזת המלחמה על עזה. אולי שכחת, ראש הממשלה, את שורת הפתיחה בשירו המופתי של נחמן ביאליק, וארור האומר ניקום. ארור האומר ניקום. למה התכוון המשורר כשכתב יקב הדם עד תהומות ושטים? אולי חשב על דמה של מילה כהן.
He goes on to name children who were killed as part of both the Hamas October 7th attack and the at that time only a few weeks into Israel's military assault on Gaza. This is also Ayman Odeh.
הרוגים בג'נין, פצועים בתל אביב, וחייל הרוג. דם כולם על הכיבוש הארור שלכם. הכיבוש מעוור, הכוח מעוור. אתם מתנהגים לא רק כפושעים, אלא גם כטיפשים.
אני מבקש לשמור על שקט.
וזה חוק הטבע. לכל פעולה יש תגובה.
טלי, אני מסתדר, טלי, שנייה.
לכיבוש יש תגובה. וזה ההתנגדות.
אני מבקש.
ההתנגדות לכיבוש היא לגיטימית. והכיבוש לא לגיטימי.
So he's a unique politician, and he represents, I think, in many ways, he represents a large majority of Palestinian citizens of Israel who are deeply committed to humanistic values, but are also deeply committed to Palestinian national rights, to achieving Palestinian equality between Palestinians and Jews, between the river and the sea, in the full extent of the word, including national equality, political equality, civic equality in all respects. So this is the so-called supporter of terror, right? Like, say, on the one hand, this guy who expresses very deep empathy for the Jewish victims of Hamas's October 7th massacre, but at the same time is uncompromising about the Palestinian people's right to resist, about the Palestinian people's right to self-determination and to a homeland. And I think his confrontational style and the inability to contain those two tendencies is something that scares Israeli policymakers, and this is why the motion to impeach him is gathering so much support. There's one last clip I want to show. You might not be able to see the subtitles. There you go.
הדבר האחר שאני רוצה להגיד, שאתם לא יודעים כמה אני רואה אתכם חלשים. אתם אנשים חלשים. חלשים מאוד מאוד.
This is only last month, well into the genocide.
אחרי שנה וחצי על מלחמה שהרגתם בה 19,000 ילדים, 53,000 תושבים, הרסתם את כל האוניברסיטאות, את כל בתי החולים, ואתם, אין ניצחון פוליטי. אתם מרגישים שאין ניצחון פוליטי, לכן משתגעים. למה אתם משתגעים? למה אתם חלשים? למה אתם עצובים? למה אתם לא שמחים? למה? בגלל שאין
And he gets dragged out of the parliament, the Knesset. This is Ayman Odeh, and I think he represents a real threat to Netanyahu's reign. First of all, electorally, because for the Israeli opposition to have any sort of fighting chance at unseating Netanyahu, it would have to rely on a significant number of Palestinian votes. So in terms of, I also wanted to give a broader context about Odeh, the man, and also the political movement that he represents and the trouble that he poses, the problem that he poses for Netanyahu. So like I said, he leads, he led the only Palestinian party, the United Palestinian Party, the Joint List, for years, which has disbanded and then reformed and then disbanded again. Currently it's disbanded and there are two Palestinian factions. But the stream that he leads, like I said, the one that is very uncompromising regarding certain core tenets like full national and civic equality for Palestinians and Jews, is their support is almost inevitably going to be necessary for the Israeli opposition to be able to unseat Netanyahu. So pushing him out of the Knesset will send a message to the Arab voter that your vote doesn't count. I think finally, in a way, remove the fig leaf of representation within Israel, exposing the Knesset for what it is, or let's say the Israeli political scene for what it is today, which is one that is deeply, deeply exclusionary and intolerant to Palestinian voices. The decline of the Israeli left is a well-documented phenomenon, but I wanted to show, not this one, but this graph that I compiled as part of my PhD research. The Zionist left's decline and the rise of the center between 1992 and 2022. So the dotted line here is the Labour Party, Israel's founding party. It's a Zionist party, but in 1992, it was led by Yitzhak Rabin, who, as a prime minister, was in charge of, well, he was prime minister as Israel was moving towards reconciliation with the Palestinians and signing the Oslo Accords. Of course, there are debates about how sincere Rabin was, and there are all kinds of counterfactuals we can do, but it's for sure true that Rabin's government was the most left-wing in Israeli history. Again, we can debate how left-wing he was, how truly committed he was to a Palestinian state. In hindsight is 2020. But I do think it's undoubted that he led a real, genuine peace camp within Israel, a large, very large, organic peace camp that was willing to make territorial sacrifices, was willing to give up on settlements, for example, for the sake of signing an agreement and the establishment of two states. There was a substantial constituency within Israel who was pro two-state solution. Even at, and we're talking about a real Palestinian state, even at the expense of removing Israeli settlements from the West Bank and Gaza Strip. But as we can see here, this dotted line declines dramatically, especially around after the start of the Second Intifada here in 2003. Meretz is this line, the solid, thin line that I'm highlighting now, and it is a party even to the left of Labour. And in 1992, ahead of the Oslo Accords, it had 12 seats out of 120 in Israel's parliament, and we can see that it declines into obscurity until finally in 2022 it didn't even get enough votes to pass the threshold in Israel. In their place, you have these center parties that have risen to prominence, center-right parties that have risen to prominence. And the Israeli opposition today is comprised of these parties. And like Orly Noy says in her article here, and again, as usual, all of the articles will be linked in the description. As Orly Noy correctly identifies, this opposition is not serious. It does not have teeth. It agrees, it sides with the fascists when it comes to the most important issue, the most important cleavage in Israel, which is the attitudes towards the Israeli-Palestinian confrontation and how to resolve it. So this is the context of years of intensifying right-wing voices within Israel, years of ever more exclusionary, hostile environment within Israel. And amid this backdrop, Ayman Odeh presided over the union of all four, at the time, Palestinian parties, the creation of this sort of four-point platform, and declaring his willingness to partner with these Israeli center parties in order to unseat Netanyahu, to bring Netanyahu's rule to an end. He demanded resources to address violent crimes plaguing Arab cities and towns, legal incorporation of unrecognized, mostly Palestinian Arab villages and towns, insist on resuming direct negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians to reach a peace treaty that ends the occupation, and call for repealing the nation-state law, the law that declared Israel to be the exclusive, or let's say between the river and the sea, historic Palestine to be the exclusive domain of the Jewish people, and effectively legalized the second-class citizen status of the Palestinian minority within Israel. And again, we're talking here about the Palestinian minority within Israel. We're talking about Palestinians with Israeli citizenship. So this is not Ayman Odeh, although he's part of the Palestinian people, he's not the political leader. He wasn't voted by Palestinians in the occupied territories in the West Bank and Gaza who don't have the right to vote. So that's just sort of the context regarding the Palestinian citizens of Israel. So he's declaring his willingness to partner with the Israeli center. And he and the leaders of the other three parties that comprise this union, this joint list, actually recommended, made a formal step by recommending the leader of the opposition bloc at the time form the next government. This is kind of an unprecedented move. Palestinian parties usually refrain from recommending a Zionist party. They rather maybe support from outside. Maybe they don't like to express formally their favoring candidate X or candidate Y be serve as prime minister. They don't throw their weight behind Zionist leaders in that way, but in 2021, I believe they did. This fell apart, partly due to co-optation on part of Benjamin Netanyahu, who sort of intervened and co-opted one of the leaders, and it ended up being broken up. The rest is history. Maybe I'll get to it in a different episode. But this is who Ayman Odeh is, and this is who he represents. This video is getting long already, so I think I'll stop it here. Please write write a comment if you have any questions. I'm happy to make follow-ups on this. And keep an eye out on Ayman Odeh's impeachment proceedings. And as usual, the links will be in the description. So yeah, like, subscribe, comment. All those things help, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.